Hello, my loves, and welcome to your Cosmic Weather Report for the week ahead. And I get to bring you a Christmassy Cosmic Weather Report. We move into Christmas now. And speaking of which, we have a really lovely week this week that's going to culminate with the Gemini full moon. So this is going to be our final full moon of this year. And so a lot of the information that's going to come through to us through the week is really all helping us to have the information that we're going to need for Sunday's really big full moon. So this begins on Monday. Now on Monday we've got the Sun trine Chiron. The Sun in astrology is your personality, your ego. It's how you're here to shine. It's your inner light. It's your expression. It's how your soul expresses itself. It's how you're here to light up the world and those around you. And Chiron is the wounded healer. And so this is going to bring a really profound opportunity. And I don't want you to miss this opportunity at the beginning of the week for real healing and growth. And so what I want you to really pay attention to at the start of the week is finding the wisdom in the wounds. So really understanding how you've been shaped by your experiences of the past, especially perhaps the more painful ones, how they've made you who you are, but what you're now ready to leave behind. And so rather than living in a way of, well, because this happened to me back then, it means that I am now this way, or because they once did that to me, it now means that I am this way. Realizing how these things have shaped you, but then really asking, is this an identity I want to keep carrying forwards with me now? Or instead, can I now begin to embrace these wounds for growth and for transformation, and to really decide that that's no longer going to run my life anymore. I'm going to take everything I gained from that experience. I'm going to really understand how it shaped me. I'm even going to acknowledge that it was painful and it was difficult and it was hard, but I want to begin to tell a new story now. I want to begin to move forwards different now. I don't want these wounds of my past to continue to define me in my present and in my future. So this is about really now leaving behind anything you don't want to keep taking with you. It may mean forgiveness, which I understand is such a big topic, and especially around this time of year, we have a lot of stuff surfacing, a lot of stuff coming up, but just a little reminder that forgiveness does not mean that you're saying what someone did is right or okay. It's just saying, I'm no longer willing to carry this around with me anymore. And so this is just such a profound day now for growth and for transformation and for taking wisdom from wounds and purpose from pain, and that deep understanding of how it's brought you to here. But you now get to decide whether you want to keep picking the scab and picking the wound, or whether you want to just now start to let it heal over. And there's always maybe going to be that little bit of scar tissue there, or that little scar as a reminder, but you don't need to keep opening it up anymore. This is also a really beautiful day for really acknowledging how far you've come in your healing journey. And so I spent a lot of time last weekend having really deep discussions about how we often feel like growth and transformation has to be really deep and dark and painful and dark and out of the soul, which very often it is. And very often, especially initially on a journey, those are the real experiences that are going to shape you and help you to change the most. But eventually, it's about getting to a stage where you begin to understand you've already done a lot of the work. You've already done it. You've already been doing it. And healing now gets to be easy. Healing can be done through joy and through pleasure and through gratitude. And so it might be that you begin to embrace that and begin to embrace there is still some healing to be done here, but I'm now going to heal through pleasure. And I'm going to heal through love, and I'm going to heal through purpose, and I'm going to heal through happiness, and I'm going to heal through joy, and I'm going to heal through doing things I really now love to do. And so I'd also love to offer you that as a reflection of whether you can now allow your healing journey, if you're on one, to be done more from a place of being whole and knowing that you've already done a lot of the work that's brought you to this point. Thursday then, we get Venus opposite Mars. So this is, again, going to be a really profound day where you're going to find your inner fire is lit. And you might remember we talked about Mars retrograde last week and about stoking those inner flames. As Venus opposes Mars, there's going to be this big inner fire where you're going to be able to really feel deep insights into your deep desires and what you're yearning for and what you're longing for, what your values are, and who you want to be and how you want to live and how you want to show up in the world. And this day's also really powerful for showing you Mars is that planet of motivation and drive and desire. And so sometimes we can find, especially when Mars meets Venus, Venus being our relationships and our self-love and our self-worth and how we move through the world, there can often be insight into what's been motivating you. So when you say you want to make change in your life, and you might be starting now already thinking about next year and thinking about, right, this is the change I want to make. Are you being motivated to make that change from a place of not enough, or from fear, or from loneliness? What's our motivating force? Are you motivated to do things in your life through faith or fear? It's going to ask us to really look at what is that motivating force that moves you through life, and to turn the dial. If a lot of your motivation comes through fear, berating yourself, not feeling like you're enough, always feeling like there's something that needs fixing about you, I want you to really look at changing that and beginning to find a motivation that comes from a place of real self-love and self-worth. I want to make these changes now because I know that I'm worth more, I deserve more, I can do more, I can offer more, I can be more, I can live more. So really look at what your motivations, when you want to make change, when things in your life aren't making you happy, look to the why and find a motivation, especially around next year, to make changes from a place of being really anchored into a sense of self. I'm doing this because I love myself. And really take some time to look at those inner desires and dreams that are stirring, those values. Look at what's frustrating you in your life, because normally that's a sign that our values are being pushed up against. Or just take some time to get really clear on, what are my values? What do I want to live by in 2025? What are my values going to be as I move into a new year? Get clear on those. Now, Friday then, we get Mercury sextile Venus. So this is going to be a beautiful energy then to help you to make friends with your mind. And so to get your mind on board with everything that you want to do, to be able to think nicer thoughts about yourself, to get your mind into that space where when you think of something, you think of all the reasons it could go right before you think of all the reasons it could go wrong, where your mind becomes your friend. And so I really want you to take some time around this day to just watch your mind. Very often our mind is just there doing its thing all by itself, until you start to become the observer of it. And so I'd love you to spend some time just really making friends with your mind. And if you're finding your mind to be like a bit of a mean place to be, just sitting down with your mind and be like, hey, is that true? Can we find a better feeling thought here? Can we find a different way to look at this? Can we find a different way to view this? Can we find a different way to approach this? We also find sometimes with Mercury and Venus energy that fresh ideas come in and fresh new thinking comes in, and ideas that are more aligned with your values and your worth and your sense of self, they can all begin to come in. And so take some time to make friends with your mind. Now, this same day is Friday, the 13th of December. As you all know, one of my favourite days of the year. Friday the 13th was once the day of the goddess. It's the day of the divine feminine. Friday was named after Freya, the Nordic goddess. It was Freya's day. The number 13 has long been associated with the divine feminine because it's the number of lunar cycles we have in a year and the average number of menstrual cycles a woman will have in a year. So at one time on Friday the 13th, the goddess was worshipped. It was a day of the goddess. It was a day of fertility and abundance and sensuality and pleasure, and really praising the goddess and asking the goddess to really help us to bring to life everything that we wanted. But around the Middle Ages, when the church started to get much more power and control, they didn't want people praying to the goddess, especially not goddesses around sensuality and sex and pleasure and magic and manifestation and abundance. And so they created this whole story around Friday the 13th being associated with witches and bad luck, and anyone found to be worshipping the goddess on these days was back in the days of the burning, burned, killed. And so it's become a day of superstition that strips away all the magic and the power of this day. And so I want to really ask you on Friday the 13th to claim this day back, to claim back the goddess, to claim back the magic and the power and the fertility and the abundance of this day, and really use it to harness the energy that you want to bring in. I often joke around Friday the 13th in kind of my inner circles that what I ask everyone to do on Friday the 13th is do something that would have got you burned a few hundred years ago. And so on this day, it may be that you speak your truth and speak up and speak out in a meeting that you maybe wouldn't normally have done. Or you might follow your intuition, that little intuitive nudge that we've been taught to be afraid of. You might go, I'm actually going to follow that. I'm going to listen to it. Or you might get your crystals out on your desk at work, or just do something for you that really embraces the energy and the magic of this day, and really stepping into the power of the divine feminine and bringing her energies into your life. And then finally on Sunday, we get the Gemini full moon. And on the day of this full moon, the ruler of this moon, the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, stations direct. You will be all glad to know Mercury is going to go direct. Now, this is a hugely powerful full moon for so many reasons. It's the final full moon of the year, the final full moon before the winter solstice, and we shift into a new season. And so this full moon now is a huge, powerful point of release of what you want to leave behind in this year and what you no longer want to take forwards with you. Now, this moon can be challenging for many people, but there is such a gift in this challenge, because the moon in Gemini can take us up into our minds. And so you might find yourself in your mind questioning everything about your life, feeling anxious about certain things, going back or forth. Should I do this and should I do that? Overthinking. Your mind is just going to be racing and questioning and going here, there and everywhere. And this is to help you to see the areas of your life that need some change. It's helping you to see what it is that you need to release as we end this year. What is it that you are ready to leave behind and no longer take forwards with you? So if you can get quiet and still and shift through the noise, or at least pay attention to the noise of where are those frustrations, where are you questioning, where are you doubting, what are you going back and forth about, as a real sign of this is what needs my attention, then start to go deeper, deeper beneath the noise of the mind, because you can also find around this moon downloads, insights, inspiration, deep wisdom, answers, clarity, but you're going to find that in your body. So you first of all need to listen to the noise of the mind to gain the wisdom of what it is that's been bothering you, what's been irritating you, what's been frustrating you, where are you doubtful, what are you angry about. Take that wisdom. Note that wisdom. Use that wisdom as to these are the changes I need to make. And then especially as Mercury stations direct on this day, Mercury wants to go, okay, now let's take this and let's do it differently going forwards. Let's go forwards in a new way. And so this is where then we get to go deeper into the stillness and the wisdom of the body, into the heart, into our intuition, into our deep inner knowing, to gain the clarity then on, okay, I know these things need to change. Now help me to know how. Help me to connect to my deeper sense of self so that I can move forwards differently. I can do things differently. I can find different ways and resolutions. And I can do that from a place of being really anchored into a sense of self and a sense of knowing and loving myself and knowing what I deserve and knowing what I'm no longer going to keep putting up with and allowing. And so this is such a profound way to end this week, where we've got so much clarity and insight through the week around our old wounding that may be still present, our motivation, what those deep down desires are. We've started to get some like fresh new ideas and make friends with our mind. And this now is that powerful turning point where we say, this is what I'm ready to leave behind in this year. And then we get that waning moon, the 2 weeks of the waning lunar cycle to begin to do that work. And then we get the Capricorn new moon on the 30th of December that will help us to plan the year ahead and to do things differently going forward. So I really urge you to work with this final full moon of the year to really release and let go of and shed and surrender anything that you do not want to keep carrying forwards with you in 2025. It's going to be obvious around this moon. You just have to pay attention to what's going on in your mind. I'm sending you, as always, so much love for the week ahead. Have a beautiful week. Use this week. It's going to be really profound. And I'll be back with you next week.